Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. I am answering another question that was in the comment section of another video. And this goes hand in hand with the video I did a few days ago on how do I know when my doe is finished kidding. So you need that information to go along with this one, because sometimes a goat just has a single kid. So she may be done after one kid. There may not be a second kid. Or sometimes she has triplets or quads. So there's going to be more kids. But today's question is, how soon will my doe have her second kid? Or how much time passes between kids when a goat is giving birth? And there are some people who would immediately answer that and say 30 minutes, like that is gospel. And I hate that answer. I did a video last year on why I hate the 30-30-30 rule, because it's just nonsense and it confuses new people and makes them think that their goat's going to die or something if these things don't happen just like that. And that isn't the way it works. The answer on all of this is it depends. So on one end, I have Nigerian dwarfs. I also raised La Manchas for a while, 10 plus years ago. And the answer is that a goat can have her second kid within seconds of the first one. I literally have goats that have given birth to two kids within 1 minute. And then it's like 45 minutes before the next kid. So with one doe, everybody's always looking for super easy answers. They're always like, oh, if my goat did this last year, is she going to do that this year? No, she's not. They're individuals. Every birth is different. We've had 760 kids, and they're all different. And things are different from one year to the next and from one doe to another. And so the answer for so many questions is it depends. And because there's so many variables. So in terms of how soon will my doe have her second kid, that is going to depend. So when a goat has two kids, within less than a minute, that is usually kid number one is the biggest. So kid number one has blazed a trail and she's pushing like crazy and pushing hard. And when it comes out, if kid number two is smaller, it may just come flying out like an afterthought, she's not even trying, she's licking the first kid and phew, you got another one. And so that's one scenario, but if you've got, but just in general, instead of watching the clock, watch your goat. So if the goat has, given birth to a kid or two kids or three kids and she's happy, I'm happy. And I've had goats give birth 45 minutes to an hour later. The thing that really caused me to chill out about this was that many years ago, and this was a La Mancha doe who did this. Many years ago, we had a La Mancha doe who looked like the absolute classic twin pregnancy, and one morning my daughter walked out to the barn and I don't remember what happened because she was in a kidding pen. So I don't know how we didn't hear this on the monitor or whatever, but my daughter walked out to the kidding barn one morning and found this La Mancha doe with a kid that was fluffy and nursing and completely healthy and perfect. And my daughter looked at her and didn't see a placenta hanging out. The kid was fluffy and dry. So she just assumed oh, she must have already passed the placenta and ate it, and kid's fluffy and dry. And wow. And she said, won't mom be surprised? She really thought she was going to have twins. And so she goes and does morning chores and she comes back later and there's another kid. So, and it was perfectly healthy and grew up to be a perfectly healthy goat. So we actually have no idea how much time passed between those two kids. But it was one of the things that taught me many years ago, don't panic, it's if the goat's happy, I'm happy. If the goat's not happy, then I am paying attention and I am concerned. So, and this is one of the things I hate about the 30-30-30 thing is like, there are some goats where there's no way I wouldn't even wait 15 minutes, if the goat is screaming bloody murder, like she had her first kid and now she's screaming bloody murder. She's flat out on her side. She's stretching out her legs. She's pushing really, really hard and nothing is happening. Like you're not seeing anything after 10 or 15 minutes of that kind of pushing. I would be wondering where that kid is and what position that kid is in. So in that case, I would be inclined to figure out what's wrong. Not because anybody's going to die anytime soon, but just because if the kid is like spine first, then she can push all day and it's never going to come out. And so it's really just a matter of being compassionate and not having her continue pushing in a situation that's just futile, where she's not going to she's never going to be able to get the kid out. And the thing about this, and this is what freaks people out, typically if you have a bizarre position like spine first, a lot of times it's because the kid's been dead already. And so it's just this dead blob of flesh that's just being pushed around in the uterus. Kids do a lot to get themselves into that diving position to be born. And so if they have died already, then they can't do that. And then you just wind up with random birthing positions. So this is where people get freaked out and they have this idea that like, oh, every kid is perfect and it's going to be born alive. And the reality is that it's not. And even if it comes out and it looks okay, that doesn't mean everything inside was okay. So anyway, basically, so the answer to how soon will my doe have her second kid, it depends. And really, you really just need to trust your goats. Like after 22 years, it's going to be 23 this year. I got to start saying 23 years. It's a new year. That is the main thing. And it probably took me 10 or 15 years to learn to trust my goats and to believe that my goats are better at this than I am. And that it's a rare time. It's rare when I need to do anything to help them. But you have to pay attention. And above all, do not freak out and do not go on Facebook and ask people what to do, because you might have some good answers, but the bad ones are going to dilute it. And if you don't know what to do, you don't know what to do. So you don't know who's giving you bad advice and good advice. So anyway, make sure that you've got a goat vet that you can call in an emergency, because you cannot do a C-section and some goats are going to need a C-section. And if you've never done it before, there's some other things that you might not be comfortable doing, or some things that you shouldn't even try to do on your own, unless you've been with a vet before and seen a vet do them and had the vet explain to you what's going on and kind of why they're making the decisions they're making. So we also have a kidding course online. I just thought about that now as I was doing this. I should put a link in the comment section below. But if you go to goatacademy.net, we will, you can get to the free course on preparing for kidding season. So Janet says, I have a first freshener with a precocious udder from 1 month old. She lost her mucus plug 2 weeks ago. She has no udder increase yet. With triplets, vet is not optimistic and suggests spaying her if kids make it to be prepared to bottle feed. I have colostrum just in case. Okay, this is a really big, massive, like, oh my God, I need like a million more things. There is a lot wrong with this. So I hate the term mucus plug, honestly. There is no such thing. There's not a mucus plug. There's mucus and there's lots of it. Somebody just posted in Goats 365 in our private community a couple days ago, like this little speck of mucus on her does. She's like, my doe is at day 143 and there's mucus on her vulva. And it's like this little tiny speck of mucus. And it's like less than what I've seen some does pass when they're in heat. And it's like, nope, not a big deal. Like that is completely insignificant. And your goat's udder is very small. So, I wouldn't expect her to give birth anytime soon. So your goat did not lose her mucus plug 2 weeks ago. You say with triplet, I don't know why your vet would not be optimistic about triplets. Our goats actually average more than 3 kids per kidding. Our goats average like 3.1, 3.2. Almost every single one is born healthy and alive and kicking. We've had more quads than I can remember. And we've even had 5 sets of quintuplets. I'm sorry, 8 sets of quintuplets. We've had 8 sets of quintuplets. So I feel like there's some information here that you haven't shared, because like there's something wrong. Like a first freshener who's like 9 months old, and only weighs 30 pounds. Like that would be bad. That would probably be a C-section. It'd be more likely, actually, I'm more concerned about a tiny little first freshener if it's a single, because that's much more likely to wind up in a C-section because that single is going to be so big. But twins or triplets would be a lot better. Spaying, I'm a little concerned about your vet's knowledge. Spaying goats is not a thing. We had a goat that had post-kidding complications, and at the university vet hospital, they said, because it's not called spaying. It's just a hysterectomy, or an ovarectomy. And doing that on a goat, like the price would start at over $1,000. It's a very risky procedure. It's not done very often. So there's no way that I'm just very, like I said, there's a lot about this description that I don't understand. And I feel like I need a lot more information. And it's been about 4 minutes since you posted this and you haven't added anything. And so I just kind of wonder about the whole, like at first, she's going to have colostrum, when she kids. And so I would give the kids all of the mom's colostrum. She's a mini Nubian, 70 pounds, a 70-pound mini Nubian. That's great. I don't understand. Again, I feel like either there's a lot of information that I don't have here, or your vet is not very knowledgeable. I would not be concerned about a mini Nubian. Also, if you've seen some of my other videos, I talk about not believing the number of kids that somebody says they see on an ultrasound, because she very well could just have 2. That one of them got counted twice. So I have known so many people who were freaking out, like, oh, she hasn't had the 3rd one yet. And there is no 3rd one because the person overcounted. They counted one of the kids more than once. Or on the flip side, I know people who've been told that they were having twins. And so after the 2nd one, they leave and then come back a few hours later and there's a 3rd one. So don't count on 3, because nobody knows how many kids that goat's going to have. Monica says, I have a 9-month-old doe who I fear is pregnant. What is more dangerous, having the kids or having an abortion? It depends on how far into pregnancy she is. So first of all, you would need to because the only thing that they do for goats is give them a drug to induce labor. Neither one is necessarily dangerous. So first of all, you need to get a pregnancy test, either get a blood test or get an ultrasound. And the only thing the ultrasound for is a yes or no. It is not for counting kids. It is not for finding out the gender. They can't do that with any accuracy in goats. They're not people. They just don't know as much about goats as they do about people. So there are 9-month-old goats who've given birth successfully. It totally depends on how big she is. If this is a 25-pound Nigerian, no, then you're looking at a C-section. So you need to be prepared for that. you need to be able, I would take, you don't know how far she is. I would take her to a university vet hospital and get an ultrasound and find out, like, I mean, if you don't know, like if she just got bred, if she got bred 2 months ago and she's gonna kid at a year and she's gonna be 2/3 of her adult weight, that's great. So so there's a lot of things that you need to do. Number one, weigh her, see how much she weighs. Is she 2/3 her adult weight? They should not be bred until they're 2/3 their adult weight. That's assuming that they're going to gain some more weight. So like if so you didn't say what breed it is. So like, for example, if this is a Nigerian, they shouldn't be bred until they're 40 pounds. And by the time they kid, they're like closer to 50. That's totally fine. I've had goats kid at 11 or 12 months that were over 50 pounds and they were completely fine. By the same token, a 2-year-old that is 30 pounds is probably going to need a C-section. So it really is not about the age as much as it is about the size. A long time ago when I got started, there was a famous Nigerian breeder. She was one of the earliest breeders. You look at her milk test results, her milk tests, most of her goats were freshening when they were 10 months old. That was just mind blowing to me. Like, I don't know how her goats, were able to produce the amount of milk. Like they were some really amazing genetics to be able to produce the amount of milk that they produced when they were 10 months old. So she's a Nigerian, almost as big as her mom. I wouldn't be too worried about it. But I also wouldn't let her push for too long before I would take her into the vet. And there was somebody a few years ago, it was one of my Goats 365 people called me and said, my goat's been pushing for 2 hours and I've been pulling and I can't get the kid out. And so first of all, that is way too long. You never, ever let a goat push and pull for that long. And so I asked her how big the kid was, or the goat, how big is the doe? Because I found out it was an accidental breeding. It's like, well, she wasn't supposed to be bred. And I'm like, how much does she weigh? So she went and weighed her, and this goat was like 27 pounds. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, you got to get her. She needs a C-section. There's no way a 27, 28 pound goat is going to give birth to kids. Like, you need to get her to a vet as soon as possible for a C-section. And it took her several hours. I want to say it was like, because like she didn't call me until 2 hours. It took her a couple hours to, like 2 or 3 hours to find a vet because it was a weekend. Took her 2 or 3 hours to, like, she was trying vet after vet. She finally, her only option was to go to the University of Illinois, which was 3 hours away. So by the time that goat had a C-section was 8 hours after it started pushing, and the kid was alive and healthy, even though it looked like it had a cantaloupe for a head, because its head had been pushed against the exit for so long, and the doe had been pushing and this owner had been pulling, and so the head was so swollen. I have never seen a swollen head like that. And I was like, she sent me pictures and I was like, oh my gosh, is it going to be okay? Like, the head, I've never seen a head so swollen. And she said that they told her at the university that it would be fine in a few days. The swelling should go down, and it did. So this is another reason, y'all, like, I just get so angry when I see people on Facebook saying, that they do crazy things with their goat because they never would have survived a trip to the vet. Like, yes, they would have survived a trip to the vet. Your goat is not going to drop dead from pain in labor. And I'm not going to say every kid's going to be born alive after 8 hours, which is why I'm like, get to the vet as soon as possible. And again, this is more of a compassion issue. I mean, the goat was suffering for 8 hours. Like, if she had told me she had a 28-pound goat that was pregnant, I would have told her, like, okay, you need to find a vet who's going to do a C-section for you, and, talk about taking the goat in, as soon as you know that she's in labor, for sure, for the C-section. So Anyway, with a goat that's that big, I would not be worried. That is not a big deal. People focus on the age when it comes to breeding and kidding, when really the important thing is the size. It's all about the size. So if she's almost as big as her mom at 9 months, that is awesome. So she's good. All right, guys, this went a lot longer than I expected. I talked about a lot more stuff than I expected. I hope you all found it helpful. I have a long list of kidding questions that I'm going to be addressing. And the goal is to get a video every day this month answering a different question. So be sure to keep checking back in on Facebook and our YouTube channel, and where we'll have these videos every day. So bye for now.